Life is a winding path, filled with twists of uncertainty and shadows of mystery. Sit tight as we embark on a journey, one that goes beyond mere storytelling. Every word, every turn, holds meaning. Stay with me until the very last moment, for what lies ahead is more than you expect. In the early hours of April 10, 2001, the quiet suburb of Scottsdale, Arizona, was like any other. Families were waking up to another day, preparing for work, for school, for the life they had built in this picturesque corner of the world. This was a place where doors were left unlocked, where neighbors trusted one another. But no one, not the neighbors, not the friends, not even the family themselves, could have imagined what had happened inside the Fisher home that night. By the time the sun rose, the house would no longer stand. A fire would consume it, leaving behind only ashes, questions, and a horrifying secret that would shock the nation. And at the center of it all was one man, Robert William Fisher. To understand what happened on that fateful night, we must first understand the man himself. Robert William Fisher was born on April 13, 1961, in Brooklyn, New York. By all accounts, his early life was marked by instability. His parents divorced when he was just 15 years old, a traumatic event that would reportedly shape the way he viewed relationships and family. After high school, Fisher joined the Navy, where he trained to become a firefighter and emergency medical technician. Those who knew him described him as quiet, disciplined, and deeply religious. But beneath the surface, there were cracks that would only widen with time. In 1987, Robert married Mary Cooper. Together, they had 2 children, a daughter, Brittany, and a son, Bobby. To outsiders, they were the picture of a perfect family. But those closest to them knew that their marriage was far from idyllic. Robert Fisher was a man who clung to tradition, to control, and to the belief that a family should never be broken. But ironically, those same beliefs would lead to the destruction of everything he claimed to hold dear. Mary confided to friends that Robert was controlling, distant, and at times, emotionally abusive. The couple's arguments were frequent, and there were whispers that Mary was considering leaving him. For Robert, divorce was unthinkable, a failure he could never accept. In the months leading up to April 2001, tensions in the Fisher household were at an all-time high. Mary had reportedly told friends that she planned to file for divorce. For Robert, this was the ultimate betrayal. April 9, 2001, began like any other day in the Fisher household. Mary took the children to school. Robert attended a church service. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, a series of events unfolded that no one could have predicted. What happened inside the house that night remains unclear. But investigators believe that sometime between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m., Robert Fisher carried out an unthinkable act. Mary was shot in the head. Brittany and Bobby had their throats slashed. And then, as the lifeless bodies of his family lay in their beds, Robert set the house on fire. When firefighters arrived at the scene, the house was already consumed by flames. It wasn't until the fire was extinguished that the true horror was discovered: the charred remains of Mary, Brittany, and Bobby. But there was one thing missing from the scene: Robert Fisher. And so began one of the most infamous manhunts in American history. In the days following the murders, Robert Fisher's car was discovered abandoned in a remote area of Tonto National Forest. Inside, investigators found his family dog, alive but malnourished. But of Robert, there was no sign. Theories swirled. Had he taken his own life in the wilderness? Had he escaped to another country? Or was he hiding in plain sight, living a new life under a new identity? For over 2 decades, Robert William Fisher has remained at large. Despite countless tips and reported sightings, he has never been found. Was Robert Fisher a man pushed to the brink, or was he always capable of such unimaginable violence? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, is he still out there, watching, waiting? The story of Robert William Fisher is one that continues to haunt the American consciousness. A story of betrayal, of devastation, and of a man who vanished without a trace. Until he is found, the case remains open, a chilling reminder that sometimes, the monsters we fear most are the ones we think we know.
The world has changed in over 2 decades since 2001. Technology has advanced, cities have grown, and people have moved on. But the name Robert William Fisher still lingers in the shadows of true crime lore. His case remains one of the longest-standing mysteries in FBI history, with his name etched onto the 10 most wanted fugitives list for years. As time passed, theories evolved. Some believe Fisher is dead, his remains lost in the vast wilderness of Arizona. Others argue that he is very much alive, adapting and hiding in plain sight. But what if the truth is far more unsettling? In 2023, a retired FBI agent, John Calloway, received an anonymous tip. A man resembling Fisher had been spotted in South America, Argentina, to be specific. The source claimed that this man, now older and more rugged, lived a quiet, solitary life as a fisherman in a small coastal village. Calloway, though long retired, couldn't shake the feeling that this could be the lead they had waited for. He passed the information along to active investigators, who quietly dispatched agents to survey the area. Weeks passed. The agents interviewed locals, discreetly gathering information. They found an American man who went by the name Robert Caldwell. He spoke little, avoided cameras, and seemed wary of outsiders. A match, maybe, but without definitive proof, the mystery remained. Some believe Fisher had help, perhaps from an underground network that assists fugitives in disappearing. Over the years, reports of sightings stretched from Florida to Canada, with some even suggesting he lived in Mexico under an assumed identity. In 2018, a man in Calgary, Canada, was arrested for an unrelated crime. His fingerprints bore a striking resemblance to those on record for Robert Fisher. Authorities ran tests, but before results could be confirmed, the man vanished, released on bail and never seen again. Could this have been Fisher? The question remains unanswered. For the Fisher family, the pain never faded. Mary's relatives, still desperate for closure, continue to seek justice. Every few years, the FBI releases age-progressed images, hoping someone, somewhere, will recognize the face of a killer. Brittany and Bobby would have been in their 30s by now. Their futures, stolen in an instant, are a reminder of the tragedy that shook Scottsdale all those years ago. The grandparents, now elderly, still wait for justice, a justice that may never come. If Robert Fisher is alive, does he feel remorse? Or has he convinced himself that his actions were justified? The thought is chilling. Perhaps he walks among us, his past buried beneath layers of deception. Maybe he has a new family, a new life, and those around him have no idea who he truly is. Somewhere, a man may sit in a quiet diner, sipping coffee as he watches the news, seeing his own face flash across the screen. He may smirk, knowing that for over 20 years, he has outplayed the system. But justice has a way of catching up. And one day, when he least expects it, the past may come knocking. Until then, Robert William Fisher remains a name whispered in fear, a name that may never fade into history, as long as the unanswered questions remain.